Today, we're going to talk about why it's so important to use an agent that has experience. I know we want to use our cousin's, uncle's, best friend's brother because they need the money, but in the end, not utilizing an experienced agent can cost you a lot of money. Yesterday, I get a call and they say that she calls me frantic because they don't even understand really how the Ladybird works, but it's so great. And like I said, I'll have you explain it to our audience. She said, my father passed away yesterday. I wanted to say I'm sorry, because I was, but at the same time I was like, all I kept thinking is, I just saved these people 6 months of headaches because I was able to make recommendations while out at the home that made a lot of sense for them. I have friends that I tell them, hey, do this, hey, do that, and they just look at me. And I have some friends that did it, and when they've gone through the loss of their parents, they're like, thank you so much for pushing me. I feel like all my experience helps to guide every single client in a direction that makes the most sense for them.
I try to advise people all the time, if they're getting divorced, wait a little bit until you purchase, because things can get complicated, get tricky, and with Florida homestead protections and marital protections and everything like that, it can get a little tricky.
Hi everyone, welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week we talk about something that'll help you make a little money, save a little money, or maybe just help you navigate this crazy world we live in. And oh my goodness, is it crazy? Craziest things happen every single day. I think it's because I run around so much. But today we're going to talk about why it's so important to use an agent that has experience. I know we want to use our cousin's, uncle's, best friend's brother because they need the money. But in the end, not utilizing an experienced agent can cost you a lot of money. So here with me today is Nick Fierro with JK Closing Attorneys. They don't just do closings, they can also help you if you need to do a Ladybird deed, any of those kind of things, just in case. So for example, I had a situation happen, and thank God, I had a past client call me and say to me, hey, my mom just passed away. My dad, who's 90-something years old, has brain cancer, and we had to put him in a nursing home. And I said, okay. She says, we finally have emptied it mostly. Why don't you come out and take a look at the property? I said, okay, no problem. I go out to the property with comparables. We're sitting there talking. I look at the deed and I say, do you have a Ladybird deed? And they're like, no, we talked to a lawyer who told us it didn't make sense to do it, that if we had to go to probate, it wouldn't be a big deal. It wouldn't be that expensive. It'd be a few $100s. And I said, I have never heard of such a thing. Not to mention the time. Imagine they're in a condo with $600 a month maintenance. Just the maintenance, the taxes and everything cost you all this money while you're waiting, for the probate process to end, right? So I said, okay, this is weird, right? I said, I disagree. I think you need to put a Ladybird deed. Let me explain why. And I said, I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on television, because I always want to make sure people know I'm not giving them legal advice. I'm giving them recommendations. And I said, you should talk to an attorney to discuss putting the property into, making it where it's a Ladybird deed. And you can talk more about why the Ladybird deed is a good vehicle to utilize, because it doesn't give people, the ability to take your property over. So, parents that are worried that, this isn't going to hurt them in any way. It's just helpful once they pass. So I said to them, you really should do this. She's like, well, but he really told us we don't need to do it. And I go, I understand what he told you. I'm telling you, you should be on every single bank account in pay on death, everything should have something so you don't have to go through the probate process. So crazy enough, weeks later, she calls me and she says, we did it. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. And, I'm not hearing any updates on the father, if he's okay or whatever, because I'm dealing with the kids. Yesterday, I get a call and they say she calls me frantic because they don't even understand really how the Ladybird works, but it's so great. And like I said, I'll have you explain it to our audience. She said, my father passed away yesterday. And all I wanted to say, I'm sorry, because I was, but at the same time, I was like, all I kept thinking was, I just saved these people 6 months of headaches because I was able to make recommendations while out at the home that made a lot of sense for them. And I have friends that I tell them, hey, do this, hey, do that. And they just look at me. And I have some friends that did it. And when they've gone through the loss of their parents, they're like, thank you so much for pushing me. And I don't get anything out of it. Like, I'm just trying to say, people poorly plan. And you know what they say about piss poor planning, right? So it's like, anyway, I feel like all my experience helps to guide every single client in a direction that makes the most sense for them.
It's 100%. The value of an experienced realtor is unmatched. You can use an attorney, you can use any realtor you want. Anybody can be a realtor. Of course, you have to go through schooling and get a license,
a whole week.
Appropriately. And you don't have to use an attorney. I, not being biased, would always recommend an experienced agent and an attorney involved in all real estate transactions, but not anything about the attorney. The attorney handles the legal side. The realtor handles the brunt work, the day-to-day, the daily grind, all the deadlines that must be kept up with, everything. An experienced realtor is unfazed by those deadlines, unfazed by a lot of the hurdles that come up. And usually that experienced realtor has an attorney that they can call as well to ask questions as they come up and continue to learn as they go through their day-to-day. So number one, the value of an experienced realtor is unmatched, like I said. Number two, probate is ultimately one, I don't want to call it a deal killer, but it's definitely a deal staller. I have a deal right now that was about to close. Everything was all winding up, and we found out that probate was needed from a prior owner.
Oh my, that's the worst.
Yeah, and it wasn't done, and somebody didn't catch it previously. And now we're going to have to wait, who knows how long, months. And then I have another one that almost got to the closing table, and an ancillary probate needs to happen because this
So what's an ancillary? Tell us what that means.
Somebody passed away in another state. They're going through a probate there, but then they have property here and they're selling it here. So it has to kind of connect the two probates. But you have to probate it in Florida, the property in Florida.
Right.
So even the simplest probate in Florida, I've never seen it. The fastest, quickest I've ever seen was maybe 3 weeks.
And that's when it's a
summer administration.
Summer
there's
administration.
no contesting. It's the simplest form of probate possible. That I've seen only a
maybe
couple
that's
times.
what this lawyer was thinking, that maybe it was going to be a summary administration, which it probably would have been, right?
But then what happens in this case where, if he were to pass away the day before closing? You have to now extend closing date by a month.
So he passed away yesterday or 2 days ago. Our closing was supposed to be Friday. Mm-hmm. It's not happening because now we have to wait for death certificates.
Yeah, now we have to wait for death certificate.
But that's the least of our,
So imagine the day before closing it happens, and then you have to go through probate. Let's say it's the simplest probate that you have to go through, that you can go through. Let's just call it 4 weeks. That's a month that you have to extend. Who knows if the buyer has the time to want to wait for that, number one, so you might lose a buyer. Number two, let's assume the buyer stays. Now the estate is incurring costs to carry the property. So now you have to pay, you're incurring the daily taxes, you're incurring your association maintenance fees that you have to pay. Just because that somebody passes away doesn't mean you don't have to pay that or don't have to pay the mortgage. Those are still due. Those still have to be paid. And these are the last of things that people are thinking of when they lose a loved one.
Now you can, and that's the thing, even when the loved ones are sick or they're older, you don't want to think about all these things. But I will say, honestly, not just, if you get to the point where you're just at the realtor, I'm always going to recommend talking to a lawyer. But as our parents get older, we really need to help them plan. Even I have kids, so my kids have to make sure that I've planned. I need to make sure that my mom's planned. Everybody needs to make sure everybody's planned. And a lot of people just say, oh, I'm going to be dead, so what do I care? Why would you want to leave your family with such a mess? My father left my mother with a mess.
Mm-hmm. And it could really be a mess. Yeah. And when people call me and they ask me for, what should they do? my first question is, what do you want to do immediately? Do you just want to transfer this property and make sure the property is taken care of, or do you have this like larger estate that needs to be addressed? Because there are two different, angles that you want to take. If you have a property and that's your sole concern, that's your one asset, you don't really have much in the bank, you don't have any other investments, anything like that, there's only one property, then a Ladybird deed is the quickest, cheapest way to go that protects you. On the flip side, if you have a whole portfolio of things that need to be addressed, then a trust would probably be the best way to go. And that's when I refer people out, because I don't do that. But I will definitely recommend, I'm not going to just make a quick couple $100 on a quitclaim deed or a Ladybird deed that really will only help one aspect of their giant portfolyour.
Right. So if you own multiple properties, then you should have a trust.
You can do a trust, and you can deed the property into your name as a trustee, and then the trust will decide what will be done with the property once you pass.
Who manages the trust if you don't have anybody to manage it?
So you designate people who are going to act as the successor trustee.
But how do you find them if you have no family? Who would you recommend?
Friends.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It is.
So what happens if you don't, is there another option than a trust if you feel like you have nobody to just, is there a way to get around? Could every property be in a Ladybird deed?
Yeah, you can individually do every property in a Ladybird deed, but then if you don't have family...
No, but you have your kids. Because
you have your kids, yeah.
Here's the thing, when your kids are young, you really don't want them to...
Exactly. So if you have children and you do a Ladybird deed, which is an enhanced life estate deed, if you have children that are under the age of 18, basically what happens, you can name them as a remainder.
Man.
And if you do pass away prior to them becoming 18, then they would have to go, a guardian would have to be appointed through the courts for them until they turn of age to be able to handle the property. But, there's so many different scenarios here that you can go. And in your case, going back to what you were talking about with your clients, it was so good that you had told them to at least consider it, because you have somebody with brain cancer. I don't want to say that or assume that he was terminally ill, but usually that means terminal illness. And as long as he was competent, which you said he met at the property, understood what was going on, as long as he was competent in order to sign that deed and understand what was going on, then it's great. Some people might say, oh, let me do a power of attorney instead.
Right.
But then what happens?
The power of attorney dies when he dies.
Exactly. Or if you have a power of attorney, sometimes closing agents won't take them. Sometimes underwriters won't take them.
If you have one that's for real estate, it should be fine, right?
If it's for real estate, but it has to be
specific to that.
Specific to the property, preferably. Has to be notarized. Has to be witnessed by 2 witnesses. All of them disinterested from the...
It can't be your sister or brother.
No. Yeah. And you need to make sure you have conveyance language on there, which authorizes the agent who's acting on behalf of the principal who created the power of attorney to have the power to sell or mortgage or buy or whatever with the property.
Well, we're going to go to commercial break and come back to this, but as soon as we come back, we're going to go back because people are dying sometimes and they're just not set up. And I have to tell you what happened this past week with my husband. And you know what? Now I'm thinking of more things that need to happen. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All roads lead home with Fairway Home Mortgage. When it comes to home financing, who you work with matters. At Fairway Home Mortgage, we combine the strength of a national lender with the care and accessibility of local mortgage experts. We offer a wide range of home financing solutions, personalized guidance, and a streamlined process designed to keep things simple, from application to closing. Because at Fairway, home isn't just what we finance, it's what drives everything we do. Connect with Cliff Bernstein, Branch Manager, NMLS number 7853 at 561-213-6852 to see what your options are today. Company NMLS number 2289. This is not an offer to enter into an agreement. Not all customers will qualify. Subject to underwriting approval, other terms and conditions may apply. Equal housing opportunity. Loan officer NMLS number 7853.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FRIPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
Priority One Credit Union of Florida is a welcoming credit union that makes your financial success our number one priority. We offer lower loan rates, higher deposit rates, and common sense local loan approvals, with nationwide access through shared branching.
Hi, I'm Dina Hennessy, President and CEO at Priority One Credit Union. We are open to the community. Anyone can be a member of our credit union, and we would love to have you.
Contact us today at 954-335-5100. You can also reach us at PriorityOneFL.org. Your financial success is our priority. That's 954-335-5100.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Today we're talking about why it makes sense to use an attorney, hire an experienced agent. It's the things you just never think, like the things that happen on a deal, like what's going on in life. It's more than just selling a house. So Friday night, I went to dinner with my husband. We went about an hour away from the house to meet friends halfway point. And in the middle of dinner, my husband started to get really sick. And he started to profusely start sweating. And my husband thought he was having a heart attack. So took him to the emergency room, and they started asking all these questions. Do you have a health directive? Do you have this? Do you have that? I didn't have any of that.
And it starts to set panic a little bit when you realize that. And humanity is a little fragile sometimes.
So now I realize that I need health directive for him, because what happens? I'm his wife, but does that automatically make me able to make decisions? Possibly, but I just feel like, I saw a movie the other day that scared the bejeebies out of me. It was an older man had fallen while his daughter was away on vacation, and they have these people come in and they take over your parents. They take all their money, they take their home, and then somebody else brought it up to me after I watched this movie, not knowing that I watched this movie, and they're like, oh, it's a real thing. I'm like, really? People just come in and they think you're not taking care of your parents and that you should be able to take over their money and their stuff? That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they do it, but
I heard it's a thing.
There's people that take advantage of elderly people, I know that, and they go in and they have them sign stuff, and without anybody knowing, they show up at the door, they do some kinds of crazy things, and then they end up with property somehow. And when you have a legally signed document and somebody passed away that signed that document, fighting that in court gets a little tricky.
I actually had gone to the hospital, this is years ago, to a client to check on her. She had ended up in the hospital, so I stopped in just to see how she was doing. And she had her diamond ring on, and she's like, I want you to hold this. And I was like, nope. Not holding your diamond ring. I literally called the son up on the phone and I said, hey, I'm here at the hospital with your mother and she's asking me to hold this diamond ring and I don't want to take it because if it goes, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
You know how many people would have taken it and then said that she didn't know what she was talking about? That's the type of society we live in.
I know, and I just didn't want to be, I had a client recently die. And his daughter called me up and asked, who's managing these properties? I go, not me. I knew that he had a little bit of dementia, and I was very concerned that if I was to collect the money and then reimburse it, I would have to sit there and start showing this is how much came in here, this is where this went. I was like, I don't need that headache, because they get older, then they say they never got the money, and then you got to prove it, and then not worth the time.
And it's a big thing. What you just said is, competency, and that's a big thing on what we talked about earlier. Everything before you sign all these documents that we talked about, you need to be competent. So then, if you're not competent, then there can be an argument in court later on, and with some proof that competency was an issue, things can be revoked, things can be contested. So it just
Yeah, this job
everything.
scares me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, like it's a little scary sometimes.
But that's where your experience leads to intuition and allows
and I
you
just
to
say no. You know, sometimes things aren't worth just a little bit of money.
to brother Johnny or cousin Sal, it might be, and that's what some people do, and then they get burned at the end because they don't get the advice. They have to go through probate. They don't do a power of attorney. They don't do a Ladybird deed. It's just all of these little things that they're big decisions, but in the grand scheme of things, they help immensely.
I had another client too that actually, you were going to go for the mom. That was another person that I had told them, you need to do a Ladybird deed, otherwise you're going to have to put half of the property in probate, and half of it wasn't going to be in probate because the sister wasn't put as where she would inherit it, because she was half on it. Then the other sister wasn't even on it at all. So I said, well, your sister, if you guys don't even talk, she can take the rest from. It's like, it's craziness.
Yeah, and sometimes when people close on properties, they don't have a discussion with the closing agent or whoever's handling the closing as to how they want to take title. Because you can take title, and we do it all the time. We have that enhanced life estate language on a warranty deed in a sale. So you can be thinking about this ahead of time and get this taken care of when you purchase property and not even worry about it later on. Or there's different ways to hold title. If you're purchasing property, you're not married, let's say you and somebody else are buying property, you and your sibling are buying property, and you guys don't talk to the closing agent as to how you want to take title.
They might put it as a husband and wife.
They could, which is wrong, but they could also might not put anything. They might say, hey, Laura, a married person, and Nick, a single person, and not say how you hold title, which in Florida, that means you default as tenants in common, which means that if either of you were to pass away, then your portion, your 50%, which is the automatic unless said otherwise on the deed, would go to your heirs. So then you would own 50%. Let's say I pass away, my 50% would go through probate, unless I had, it would go through probate to my heirs, however that would be determined. And then my heirs would own 50% and you would own 50%.
So now you're sharing a house with somebody else.
Exactly. Or you can hold it as joint tenants, and then if I were to pass away, my 50% would go to you, or my share would go to you.
And that stuff's important too, understanding how that all happens. So let's talk about something else that you should also know before taking people out to buy.
100%.
Are they not divorced?
Yeah.
Are they in the process of getting divorced?
And I try to advise people all the time, if they're getting divorced, wait a little bit until you purchase, because things can get complicated, get tricky. And with Florida homestead protections and marital protections and everything like that, it can get a little tricky. But a lot of the time, if people are in a rush to buy, I usually have them give me their divorce attorney's contact information. And what I'll do is I'll speak with them and have them write something into the provisions of the marital settlement agreement, which says that each spouse, if they're purchasing property, will disclaim their interest in the other spouse's purchases, or something along those lines, if they're in a hurry. If not, and a divorce is, no divorce is amicable, but the less contested the divorce is, the quicker it kind of flows. So usually they can wait. We've had people, mutual clients of ours that have gotten divorced, and it's been, relatively simple. But then there's other people that it could be very convoluted. And if it is convoluted, I definitely recommend them to wait on purchasing a property, just because it could muddy the waters later down the line. So the way you take title, all these different facets of life.
Explain, because we're running out of time. Explain why I talk so much about a Ladybird deed and what the benefit is to that.
Well, mainly, number one, we've touched on it. You avoid
Probate.
Number one. Number two, you have and you continue to retain full control of the property with an enhanced life estate deed. There's also a life estate deed that's different, and we can talk about that later. The enhanced life estate deed is something really unique to Florida and really special for our state. Not many states have it. It's a survivorship deed, meaning that you retain possession and title to the property until you pass away, and it automatically transfers to whoever you name as the remainder. It could be multiple people. It can be one person. It could be, we've done it to a trust before. You know, if somebody passed away and they name the trust, and then the trust will deal with the property at that point. So those are really the two big benefits of it. But there's also a couple other ancillary benefits. You know, when tax basis, it's a stepped up basis for the remainder, so they're not getting as big of a capital gains hit that they would, you know, taking the property another way. There's you get to retain your homestead while you do a Ladybird deed, not the remainders.
Oh, I see.
But
Yeah.
if you deed yourself the property, or if you take title with an enhanced life estate, you get to claim homestead on the property.
Right.
So that's another huge thing in Florida, where if you can have the homestead protection for the constitutional protection and the tax protection, or the tax benefit, then you're reaping all the benefits of being able to hold title, and you have this estate planning tool that can really truly impact not just your life as you continue to live, but then once you pass, then the lives of the remainders, they don't have to be your children. They could be a friend or whoever you want to name. It doesn't have to be children, but whoever you name as a remainder, it really significantly helps them when it comes down to organizing your affairs, because that's one big item that could really cause an issue with probate, which could cost thousands of dollars and months of contentious issues.
Right. So the moral of the story is, reach out to Nick at JK Closing Attorneys. What's the best number to get you?
954-779-5000. And you can email me, Nick at jkclosings.com, or if you want to email our legal department, legal at jkclosings.com.
Or if you're looking for a top agent, somebody that can definitely guide you. Every situation's different. Every person I sit down with has a different need, and I definitely feel like I make the right recommendations. Give me a call, Laura Sanders, RE/MAX Direct, 954-650-0827, 954-650-0827, or you can check me out on the web at lauracell.com, and make it a great one. Until next week, thank you for always watching Making Money with Laura Sanders.